This case is one of the craziest cases I've covered, and this is only my third true crime video. In this video, we're going to dive into the case of Guy Marie Louis Henri Desnoyers. Now, the things that this guy did in this case is despicable. Like, it doesn't even sound real, but unfortunately it is. So join me as we dive into the disturbing case of Guy Marie Desnoyers. Desnoyers was born in February 24th, 1920. He grew up in Haipemont, which is a small hamlet in France. He was born in a Catholic family, which was relatively prosperous and very devout. However, Desnoyers' upbringing was far from easy. For example, he had a sister who was disabled, and her sister was taken advantage of and sexually abused, which is terrible. But this is a foreshadow to what's about to happen. His maternal grandmother promised him that he would be a priest at a very young age. He was sent to the seminary in Bossaville and Villers-la-Nancy to pursue his studies. While he was there, he was described as a good kid. However, his fellow students would notice his obvious attraction to women and question whether he was suited to be a priest. In the early 1940s, Nazi Germany occupied that region, and the seminary was forced to close down under their occupation. During this period, Desnoyers claimed that he killed a Nazi during the liberation of France. However, this claim has never been verified. Now, I don't want to bore you with the details of Desnoyers' background, but let me summarize it as fast as I can. After World War II, he returned to his studies, and in 1946, he became a priest at 26 years old. He was assigned to work under a priest in Blamont as a local vicar, which is basically someone that works in place of a pastor. Now guys, this is where the case gets very disturbing. After becoming a vicar, he started a relationship with a 16-year-old girl. Yes, you heard that right. A 26-year-old man is in a relationship with a 16-year-old girl. Now eventually this relationship was revealed, and because it was revealed, his time at Blamont came to an end. However, this didn't stop him from being a priest. Desnoyers was eventually transferred to be a vicar of Rehon. I hope I said that right. However, as soon as he got there, there were rumors that he was starting inappropriate relationships with local women there as well. Now, allegedly, Desnoyers was raising up a woman who was a widow, and not just any widow, a very wealthy widow, shortly after her husband's death. Apparently, this same woman donated over 150,000 francs for the church roof repairs and bought a Renault 4CV automobile for Desnoyers. Damn, so bro backed the widow, and the widow gave him money and a car. Damn, that's crazy. I wish that was me. Now, although Desnoyers had been transferred to Rehon, he was still seeing that 16-year-old girl in Blamont. He would travel back and forth to see her. Yeah, that's very sick. Oh, and by the way, she wasn't the only one that Desnoyers was dating. Desnoyers was dating girls that were younger than him, way younger than him. This EDP type of relationship didn't end until a decade later. Yes, a decade, meaning that it was happening for over 10 years. In July 1950, Desnoyers received a promotion of sorts and was transferred to Europe. Europe was super small and had very little people. It had only 392 people and was a very small location. Because of this, Desnoyers was not under any supervision, and also because of this, he was the village's priest. Yep, this P. Diddy over here was the village's priest. He was a priest of over 392 people. Initially, the people of Europe took a liking to Desnoyers. He was actively contributing to his community. He set up a football team for the youth. He hosted theater performances, and overall, the younger guys in the community were taking a liking to him. But it didn't take long for people to notice his unusual relationships with minors. This sicko would target very vulnerable women, especially minors. In December of 1953, Desnoyers conceived a child with a 15-year-old girl. Mind you, Desnoyers was 33.
You what?
FBI, open up!
I'm sorry. I don't think you heard that right. Let me read that again. Desnoyers, 33, had a kid with a 15-year-old girl. See, when I told you guys that this guy is sick, I was not lying. Oh, but don't worry, the worst is yet to come. Now, because of this, rumors started to circulate around. Now, do you know what this French EDP did? Basically, he told the minor to leave the community and only come back when she has delivered the child. Then he says that she should give away the child to child welfare, and he called the child a child of sin, which, by the way, is the sin that he committed. Yo, what kind of fucking sicko is this? Like, oh my goodness, I am so disgusted. Desnoyers did this to hide his dirty secrets and maintain his reputation. However, this did not do anything to calm down the rumors. The Bishop of Nancy, which is the nearest city to Europe, had heard of these rumors and had summoned Desnoyers to be questioned. Now, I don't know how he did it, but Desnoyers lied to the bishop. It's not clear what Desnoyers told the bishop, but the bishop found him innocent and not guilty for the rumors that has been said around the area. In 1956, Desnoyers will meet another teenager whose name is Regine Faze, another local girl from Europe. Now, this girl wasn't actually like minor, she was actually 19. However, by this time, Desnoyers was 36, so 19 and 36 is still very weird. And this is where the case becomes much darker than before. If you thought it was already bad from what Desnoyers did, oh boy, it's about to get a whole lot worse. Because what Desnoyers did to Regine would make you drop your jaw. Now, we don't know too much about Regine Faze. All we know is that she's from a middle-class family and she works as a glass working shop. Like most of Europe's residents, she became involved in the parish activities of Desnoyers. This is how she met him. In April of 1956, Desnoyers had gotten Regine Faze pregnant. Yes, he got another teenager pregnant. But what the fuck is wrong with this guy? Can't he wear a condom or something? God damn. Now, Regine's family did not expect this. They did not expect Regine to be pregnant so young and out of wedlock. Remember, this is the 1950s and pregnancy out of wedlock was a huge no-no, considering it is a religious setting. But regardless, they got over the situation and prepared to make plans for the grandchild. Regine was living with her parents and she decides to take care of the child by herself. She also decides to not reveal the father of the child to the parents. Desnoyers tries to make Regine to get rid of the baby, however Regine refuses. Desnoyers is not happy with this. By December, she was 8 months pregnant and it was only a few weeks to go before she gave birth, which made Desnoyers even more mad. Desnoyers then decides to make up a fake scenario of who the father of Regine's child is. He says that Regine's baby dad was someone who raped her at a village festival. Wow, so this pedophile can't even take accountability and is even making up fake scenarios. Now, at this time, Desnoyers was getting more and more scared because it was only a few weeks before Regine was about to give birth. Desnoyers is afraid that when Regine gives birth, that the child will resemble him and it will give away that he's the father of that child, which may destroy his reputation as a priest. It was December 3rd and Regine is 8 months pregnant and she's about to give birth very soon. Despite being this pregnant, Regine was still active and she was about to run errands in the village local shop. She left her family home around 6:15 p.m. and was expected to return by dinner. However, dinner came and Regine still was yet to be seen. Regine's parents and siblings grew worried. They are afraid that Regine ran away due to her pregnancy being out of wedlock and the possibility of her taking her life. Now remember, Europe doesn't have any local police, so Regine's parents decided to file a missing person report to the mayor. They tried to look for her, but she was not found. They then tell the pedophile Desnoyers that Regine has been missing. Desnoyers decides to also join in looking for Regine. He even rings the church bell to inform the people about the disappearance of Regine. Desnoyers had a car, so he used the car to scout the area to check where Regine could possibly be. Now, eventually, Regine will be found, but not in a good state. At 2:30 a.m. by December 4th, Regine Faze was found dead. Now, trigger warning, this is where it gets graphic. Regine was found lying down in a ditch with her pregnant stomach cut open. And the fetus had been removed from her stomach. Her face had also been mutilated and slashed. Yeah, that is a gruesome fucking scene. And just like that, Regine Faze was killed at 19 years old, 8 months pregnant. I know what you're wondering. Who could have possibly killed this poor, pregnant teenager? Now remember, Europe is a very small town, so there's really no police officers or investigation force. So police officers and investigators had to come from the city to question Desnoyers. Now, this guy... oh my gosh, this guy. This EDP over here says that he knows who killed Regine Faze. I wonder who could have done it. He says that because of the seal of the confessional that he's unable to identify him. So the police decided to track down the killer without his help. Now, for those who don't know, a confessional seal is a doctrine in Christianity that a priest must follow to disclose any information regarding anything that's being told to the priest. So basically, any confession being told to the priest cannot disclose. Now, I don't think that seal or confession or whatever it's called should matter because someone has just been killed. Now, I'm actually confused. Why didn't the police press this pedophile to know who exactly did it regarding the seal of the confessional or whatever? But hey, this is the 1950s and I don't think the police were the brightest of the bunch, I guess. Now, we all know who the killer is. We obviously know that Desnoyers is the #1 suspect, but we can't just prove it yet. And so the hunt begins for who killed Regine Faze. Now, first of all, the brutality of her death was so fucked up. And you know what's crazy? The fetus was a female that was weighing 3 kilograms. That is crazy. To make matters even worse, the fetus was alive and removed from the womb. Yeah, you heard what I said. The fetus was alive. It was then found out that the cause of death to the fetus was knife wounds. Now, the police noticed that the face of the fetus was mutilated and it was clear that it was intentional. They found out that the reason why this fetus's face was mutilated was to remove any resemblance that may be the parent of the child. So the police concluded that the killer was a local in Europe and most likely the father of Regine's daughter. At the scene, the police found a 7.3mm cartridge case. The autopsy of Regine's body was found that there was a bullet in the nape of her neck, which killed her instantly, which means that Regine was shot. And the killer did this before she performed her amateur cesarean, basically a C-section. Now, the police were thinking, who could be the possible suspect for this girl's death? The #1 suspect was this EDP over here, Desnoyers. Now, one of the reasons why he's a suspect because they found this interesting about his reason for not giving up the killer. They also found a pistol that was registered to Desnoyers, which matched the ammunition that they found at the scene. And then one of Regine's friends had told the police that Desnoyers was in fact the father of the child. So the police pulled up and they arrested Europe's most popular priest and pedophile, Desnoyers. Guys, I know I've been calling this guy a pedophile a lot in this video, but there's no other words to fucking explain it. This guy is a pedophile, he's a rapist, he's everything bad in society. When Desnoyers was arrested, he denied any involvement in the killing of Regine, and he was still using the same excuse of the seal of confession, basically saying that the person who killed Regine had admitted to him, but he was still bound by the seal of confessional. He also had an alibi and said that he was in Nancy at the time of the murder. Now, obviously, the police did not buy it, and they presented to Desnoyers the ammunition information and the knife that it was used to disembowel Regine Faze. Now, after the police presented all this evidence, Desnoyers knew that he was cooked, and so he couldn't take it anymore. He broke down and he started confessing. So this is exactly what happened to Regine Faze. Remember that time that Regine left her house to go to the local store? Well, she actually went to meet Desnoyers in the outskirts of Europe. The reason why she met him was to discuss the birth of the child. Desnoyers basically trying to convince her that when she gives birth that she should abandon the child outside of Europe. So not only is bro a EDP, but he's also a deadbeat. Also, he offered Regine absolution, which basically means forgiveness. What? Wait, you're offering her forgiveness for what? For being a pedophile? For you being a sick piece of shit? What the fuck is this guy talking about? Now, Regine stands on business and refuses to do it, but she was scared as the interaction dragged on because she noticed that Desnoyers had a pistol in his glove box. So, scared, she tried to run away, but then Desnoyers chased her with the pistol in hand and he opened fire, shooting Regine in the head 3 times. Now, trigger warning, what happened is very graphic and fucked up and contains a lot of blood. Desnoyers then proceeds to use a scout knife to cut out the fetus out of Regine's stomach. Now, this next part is absolutely terrifying. After cutting out the fetus, he baptizes the fetus in the mother's blood. Yes, you heard me right. He baptizes the fetus in the mother's blood so that the female fetus doesn't have to go to hell. What the fuck? Bro, this guy is so sick. He is sick, he is sick, he is fucking sick. He then uses the same knife to slash the fetus's face to cover up any resemblance he might have to him. Then he dumps the bodies to a nearby ditch and left the scene. Simply waited for her to be reported missing so he could play the part of a humble priest. Wow, that is insane. He was then brought to do a reenactment to which he did everything he did to Regine Faze. What this guy did became so big that it became a front page news, not just in Europe, but all across France. Reporters came from all across France to cover this case, especially Regine's funeral. They named the unborn child Marilyn. This news was so big that Desnoyers was incarcerated under a false name to avoid revenge killings. Basically, they were trying to protect him, which is ridiculous because considering what he has done, he should not get any protection. Desnoyers' trial began in January 24th, 1958 at the court of Assizes of Nancy. The crowd gathered outside the courthouse was so massive that large amounts of police force had to be summoned. Even then, it was still a struggle to push past them to bring Desnoyers into the court. The police were escorting Desnoyers into the court, and while they did so, the crowd of onlookers demanded that Desnoyers face the guillotine. If the crowd's wish were granted, that means that Desnoyers will be the first priest in France to get executed since 1830. Now, in my opinion, an execution is the best way to solve this case because what this guy did was so horrific. The persecution was armed with a lot of evidence, and they argued that the murder was premeditated and he never had any serious intention to convince Regine to abandon her daughter. Wait, what? Isn't this the same guy that got another teenager pregnant before Regine to do the same thing? Now, Desnoyers' attorney argued that Desnoyers was mentally incompetent and that the church was at blame for making Desnoyers a priest in the first place. Now, I think that the attorney is right and wrong. I mean, the attorney was right. Desnoyers should have never made a priest, but he was wrong to think that Desnoyers was mentally incompetent. He was not mentally incompetent. No, no, no. Then the attorney says something so disgusting. The attorney says that the victim should be blamed for dating the priest and that the victims consented to be with him. He then says this exact quote, "Let us not be mistaken. You speak of victims, I say temptresses." Now, the court was pissed when he said this, and rightfully so. What does he mean by the victims were consenting? The victims were minors, and Desnoyers knew better than to be with those minors. And mind mind you, he's a priest. He's a person in power. He used his power to manipulate those little girls. What the fuck is he talking about? Then Desnoyers' attorney tried to argue against the death penalty and said this exact quote: God of the believers, descend into the conscience of the court, into the souls of the jurors. Tell them that they have no right to touch life because life belongs to you alone. Also, the court can't take his life, but he can take the life of two innocent people. The fact that this attorney is defending this monster is crazy. Remember that first girl that Desnoyers got pregnant earlier in this case? Well, she became a witness. At this time, she was now 20 years old. She testified that Desnoyers convinced her successfully to get rid of her child, the same way he tried to do it with Regine Faith before murdering her. Desnoyers became emotional and started breaking down and crying and started apologizing for all the things he did to them. Yeah, womp womp, it's too late for that now. See, Desnoyers tried to use the fact that he's a priest to hope that the public gives him hope. He also made a statement saying, I probably intended to kill Regine when I arranged to meet her, but I'm not sure anymore, which downplayed the premeditation angle. Desnoyers used his whole priesthood to try and save himself. Yeah, we guess it, you're a priest, but we also know that you're a murderer and a pedophile, you sick bastard. On January 26th, Desnoyers was found guilty of the murder of Regine Faith. But what happened next made me lose all faith in the justice system. Despite all the evidence that they had, Desnoyers was not given a death penalty. Instead, he was given forced labor for life. Wait, what? Now, if you guys don't know, forced labor is literally participating in the most severe types of labor that violate human rights for life. Yeah, to be honest, for someone who is a pedophile and a murderer, literally this is not enough. For all what he did, he only got a forced labor, no life imprisonment, and no death penalty. What? The justice system is really broken. A lot of people were not happy about this sentence, and rightfully so. When Desnoyers was going into the van that would take him to prison, the crowd was yelling, death, 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 and rightfully so. While Desnoyers was in prison, he was described as contemplative and withdrawn. It is said that he showed genuine remorse for what he did, which, to be honest, I think that's cap, but who knows? Now guys, you won't believe this, but on July 5th of 1978, 22 years after serving in prison, Desnoyers was granted parole and he was released. Yep, you heard that right. After everything he did, he was released. That is so unjust. He should have literally served life in prison without the possibility of parole, or better yet, a death penalty. What the fuck? Now he's released. After release, Desnoyers retired. He was barely seen in public, and when he was in public, he did not speak of his crimes. Now it is said that he was actually genuinely remorseful, but I don't know how true that is. The Europe mayor told the journalist that it was better that he had not come back here, which was absolutely right and correct. After being secluded for 32 years, Desnoyers died at the age of 90 in April 21st of 2010. Thankfully, nobody noticed that he died. His death does not deserve to be recognized in the slightest bit at all. This case is actually very popular in French pop culture. It has been adapted into plays, novels, and 4 movies, the most recent of which was released in 2015. Regine's tombstone contained an inscription saying, "Here lies Faith Regine," that was killed in December 3rd, 1956 by the parish priest at the age of 19. This was engraved to ensure that nobody forgot about what happened to that poor girl. Rest in peace to Regine Faith. Alright guys, so that is the end of this case. Whew. This case was long. Sorry that I have not dropped a video in a while. My laptop had to get fixed, so yeah. This case was actually so long. Desnoyers is a pure evil monster. What he did to that girl is unacceptable. And the fact that he was being protected and he got released so early, he literally got released and got to live 32 more years before he died, instead of 7 life in prison or having a death sentence. Man, the justice system system is cooked. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching, and let me know what you thought about this case, because this case was crazy. And this is only my third true crime video. Anyways, thank you guys for watching, and I'm so done. Rest in peace, Legend Phase, and rest in peace, Desnoyers.